Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's October 1st, 2023. I'm down here on the back of the new property, not the back, but in the area where the house and the pasture are up there, the work that I've been doing last couple days. And yesterday I showed you that I was starting to do some work, starting to put in a pond, the first part of it. And it looks like overnight there's a couple little puddles of water in there. And so we'll see what the water table does for us here. But by spring, hopefully this will all be filled up. And hopefully over the next couple of days, I'll get a decent sized pond dug here. I've got a little more fill to put over there in that back corner over there near the property border. I just want to bring that up so there's no big puddles over there. So I'll take some of this topsoil, put it over there. And I may look around and see where I can get in and out easier to move some of this dirt, because some of the dirt I'm going to have to move a couple of times. It's still just too darn moist. It is. I'm going to start out by finishing up grading this area here, rough grading it with the excavator, getting it down into some of those lower spots down in there. So, and then we'll later on, after I get things established here, then we'll decide our spillway, how we'll direct it out of this area and all. So that's what I'm going to be working on today, is doing a little more work down here at this pond and see what we can get accomplished. It's unusually very nice weather this time of year. Fog is in today. Nice fog. But that won't be too bad. So here we go. Okay, so I'm over here on the northwestern part of the pond right now, and first thing I'm doing is grabbing some of the topsoil, which is loaded with roots and is still quite wet, very slippery, very greasy. Working with the material. And as I go south, since the slope of the property goes downhill towards the south, I'm putting some extra soil down in those areas to keep pretty much an even border around the perimeter. And you'll see me every once in a while grab a rock and toss it down into the pond. The reason that the rocks are being put back into the pond, these are pretty good sized rocks, is that minnows can hide and prevent themselves from being consumed by larger fish in the pond. So as I'm finding some rocks, I'm grabbing them and tossing them down into the pond. First thing I did there was remove as much of the sod as I could, toss a couple of those rocks down in there. It's a little muddy down there now because of the some water had started. Now I'm starting in the area where in half of the area on the western part of the pond where I had excavated yesterday, and what I'm doing now is bringing the depth down a couple more feet. So I'm deepening the pond and piling the material on top of topsoil over in that area. And I figure that I'll be able to use the Hulk, the Takeuchi TL12V2 track loader, to be able to get in and get on there. And I was able to do that. You won't see that in the video. I'm able to set up a couple of cameras at a couple different angles so you can see the process of me digging, excavating the pond. So I'm just working my way around. It's pretty much sandy gravel in here. There is a little bit of clay being mixed in, but you may be able to see now that I'm actually just deepening the area that was already dug out yesterday. Now I'm working my way to the right of the screen, or to my left as I'm sitting in the excavator, is to the west. And so I am working my way a little bit further to the west and working north. Right now I'm working north, in other words, digging the dirt out, going backwards with the excavator bit by bit. It's long time-consuming process doing this. Trying to keep as much of the topsoil out of the sandy material, because I'm going to be using the sandy gravel material to put on top of stone that I've excavated from a stone wall to help let's say, build up the roadway that I started this spring, which is nothing but mud in a flat area. And you'll see that at the end of the video, hopefully. So, grabbing much more of the sandy gravel material, just working my way down and backwards at the same time, since I've gotten to the depth that I feel pretty comfortable with. So we're several feet down now, so it'll be a pretty nice depth of the pond in this deeper area. The area that you saw previously on yesterday's video was shallower. But I'll be building up the berm on the right side of the screen in the future. I'll be depositing more soil over there in a few minutes. Now I'm peeling off more of the topsoil as I'm moving backwards, and I'm making a pile behind me, pushing back the top of the sandy gravel material so I can pile more up in there. And as I push it away from me, it makes it easier when I'm trying to move that material, remove it, because hopefully within the next day or two, I'll be expanding the pond underneath where I'm making that pile right now. Everything's just too slick for me to be able to get in there without having to move the dirt twice, unfortunately. So, digging down, working my way through the process. You can see a little bit of the topsoil pile behind me there. Really, really saturated topsoil. The sand and gravel is fairly dry, with the exception in the base of the pond. You can see a few water spots that developed overnight. So it's a little bit of spring action in there. So hopefully, I tend to think where the location where this pond is, that we have less of a chance of this being impacted by the drought because of the material that's here, even though it will leak some. That will happen. But it's downhill. There's a lot of slope going to head and coming from the road, working its way across the field. And as long as I get the slope correct and a swale if I need to, I'll be able to harvest as much of the water up in there. Now repositioning again to expand a little bit further west. And I'm trying to decide where I'm putting the material, and that won't make it hard to move later on. Have it shallow, the depth of the pond shallow next to that maple tree that's in the right-hand corner of the screen right now. And so again, moving more of that topsoil out of the way. Some of the topsoil I'll end up covering up on the right side of the screen in a couple of minutes with some more of sandy gravel, but I'm just trying to get that greasy material out because there's no real good traction. And when I take a big bite into the gravel, it can pull the excavator forward in that greasy material. So this is a process probably very boring to watch, and you can see I'll grab rocks and make sure that I put them down into the pond. Again, just so the fish, the minnows will have a chance to stay safe, get away from predation by the larger fish. Even though I'm sitting inside of a cab of a piece of equipment, either piece of equipment, you do get a little bit tired. You're concentrating on just what you're doing, trying to think of, all right, where do I need to put this material so that I can get it out of here? How am I going to get myself out of here in between the trees in this area? And another reason that that I have confidence that this pond will not go dry, or at least hopeful that this pond won't go dry, is because the amount of shade. You can see the tree foliage casting shadows in the pond area. So this is in the forested area and the beginning of the forested area. But that whole pasture area should be able to have enough runoff there that's going to work our way right down into this pond eventually. So that's the process that I'm going through. Just gradually moving more dirt, piling it up. Then I use the Hulk with the bucket on it, and start moving that. And I use Elon again, the excavator, to break down some of the stone walls so that I can create a good base in the muddy topsoil where the roadway is relatively flat, and therefore water tends to sit there. Now you can see a little bit better the number of stones down there in the base of the pond. And to the right of the screen, you can see that's the depth that I was digging yesterday. And now I'm going to be going back up to a shallower depth right now as I'm getting closer to this edge. So this is going to take at least 2 more days of digging to create the shape and size that I want this pond to be. Well, not just digging, but actually moving the material that I'm taking out. And it's not like I have the availability of loading this into a dump truck or a dump trailer. Everything's so tight where I've got to move things through. I've got to use the Hulk, the track loader, in order to navigate through the tough areas and not get stuck. And this is a situation, Thea and I were talking about this earlier, is where having a instead of having a backhoe on the back of a tractor, or using the front end loader of a tractor to do this job, you'd be constantly getting stuck without a tracked machine. Now I'm just going to be working my way back out of here. There's stumps that I'm pulling out along the way so I can make my way up out of here and then proceed to the next step, which is getting the track loader and starting to move some of this earth. So that's just part of the process that I'm going through. So there we go. Okay, it's the end of the day. Thea and I are taking a walk around, having a look, see. Thea's going to inspect my work. So created a couple more piles. We'll go over and take a look. Thea's rock. See, some water came in over here overnight. So this is a part I dug out yesterday. And I dug down here deeper. Yeah, there's some water coming in down there as well, a little bit. And as I run into some rocks, I toss them down into the hole so that small baby fish won't be eaten all up by the bigger fish. I got margins around. Got a pile over there I set up afterwards, some more topsoil there. And this pile I started working on as soon as I got done excavating as much as I could excavate. And then I grabbed the Hulk and started to fill in some of the roadway. And I don't ever think I posted a video about the roadway. I'll show you over here. So probably 2 months ago, I made a hole through the stone wall so that I could make my way over to here. And before that, I started a new road, but the ground was so wet, all my equipment were sinking in the mud so badly that it just wasn't going to work out. So this is the spot I made through the stone wall. So it's stone wall. There's several stone walls here. And so I started filling in this area. Now, you've seen that roadway there that I made earlier this month, or I'm sorry, earlier in September, I think, or the end of August. And this is a road that I never really showed that I started working on, but because I was sinking so badly, I abandoned it until it started to dry out. Now that it's starting to dry out and I have this fill from the pond, now it's sandy gravel, but I'm taking apart part of the stone wall there and depositing the stones into the trenches that were created by the tracks of the excavator. And it's hard to see, I'm sure, but all down there, just about bottoming out until we get about 100 yards from here. But I take the stones from the stone wall, deposit them in here, press them down some, and then the sandy gravel that I'm excavating out of the pond, I put that on top of it, and that raises this up enough so that hopefully I'll be able to use this road in the future. So we have the one road that you've been up a dozen times. We got this little connecting road that I put in here not too long ago, right over here. And so it's now trying to make this road into a more usable, manageable road. They all start off something like that, but this is drier up here. And thank goodness for all the stone walls we have, because I can use those for a base. So that's what I was up to today, working on the new pond and using the soil in different places so that we can make quick, useful use out of the material that we're digging out of the pond. So that's it for today's video, folks. If you found it of value, please give us a thumbs up. If you have comments or questions, please leave them below. And if everything goes well, tomorrow I'll be working further on that pond. So take care now. Bye-bye.